and welcome to 5-inch Floppy on GameArena.com.au. I'm Junglist. This week we look at an old school game made in a new school way. Natural Selection 2 is an FPS RTS hybrid that's been in development a long time. So long it started out in development on the Source engine before the developers Unknown Worlds abandoned that to create their own. This long development process forced the indie team to search for extra funding, which they found, and then some, through the crowdsourcing model, all the while maintaining a close relationship with their loyal followers, indeed depending on them for support through word of mouth, having zero marketing budget. In fact, the development process of Natural Selection 2 has been the most open of any we've seen, with the developers posting their code up on their blog, allowing anybody to help them who could write in Lua. No, Lua. Yeah, that's it. The result is basically a kick-ass community, who are not only a friendly bunch to play with, but would also fix bugs for them, make the game faster, add features, and occasionally get hired as the indie team grew. In Natural Selection 2, a team of Marines face off against a team of aliens on a space station, competing for space and resources ever since that first diplomatic meeting went wrong with the aliens' greetings sounding a lot like "Yo mama so fat." One lucky player on each side gets the commander's chair, assuming the RTS player's role, in charge of placing buildings, researching upgrades, and granting the occasional power-up, like a super shield, to their soldiers. These power-ups are expensive and usually only used in a desperate situation. While the Marines are a very conventional faction, you can basically think of the aliens as Zerg from StarCraft 2. They spread across the map using creep. They evolved their soldiers into more powerful life forms using egg sacs. And there are similarities with Zerglings, Mutalisks, and Ultralisks. We want to focus on the aliens here because that's where a lot of the interesting stuff comes from, and there's a lot of it. As vanilla as the Marines are, one of the first things you'll notice is that you move slower than in other shooters. Movement is a big part of the balance in Natural Selection 2. Take your basic alien soldier, the Skulk. Here's what happens when you run straight at a Marine. The aliens aren't so great at straight-up fights, but what's this? The Skulker can skulk. Not only setting up ambushes like a drop bear, but upgrading speed and making good speed throughout the map using its ventilation shafts give the Skulk the utility it needs to get that all-important melee bite. Natural Selection 2 intends Skulk wall jumping to be a skill for you to master, and will even give you different sound effects to let you know how good your timing is on those trick jumps. Next up is the Gorge, a support unit that fills the role of a would-be medic or engineer. His biobombs destroy armor while not so great at outright killing, and his spit heals teammates and helps things grow. The Gorge has a movement trick too, being able to slide and drift around corners like Ken Block, but very importantly the Gorge can actually build turrets directly onto the map, as well as build up walls to give cover or restrict movement, all without commander support. Moving up the food chain is the Lurk, a Mutalisk-like flyer with a poison bite designed for quick, swooping attacks. A press of the spacebar flaps your wings, be it straight up or forward or whatever, and with upgrades you'll be able to shoot spikes. Getting into the expensive units, the Fade is a powerful melee soldier with the ability to blink in and out of range several times during a fight. And lastly, the Onos is a stalemate-breaking powerhouse that loves to juggernaut through defenses with a healing Gorge behind him. All of these upgrades and evolutions require resources, of course, which need to be secured and continually extracted throughout the map. The Marines have a fairly familiar arsenal of shotguns, jetpacks, and explosives, simple yet deadly. Later in the game they can get warp gates to offset the aliens' mobility advantage, and a mech suit to counter the beefy Onos unit. But even though one side is fairly straightforward, the outlandish nature of the aliens, the radical departure from FPS convention, kinda makes it hard to keep everything in your head at once. It's a big balance job for the developers, and it's a steep learning curve, even without jumping in the commander's chair, even without clan play. This is a game where you're gonna have to put in some practice hours just to pub properly. It's a philosophy of possible to learn, hard to master. Unknown Worlds haven't spent their time on features for casual Care Bears. Instead, they're giving PC gamers what they really want. Things like actual dedicated servers that you have control over. Esports is also a big focus for them, and the spectator mode is feature-rich, with lots of good info, the potential for multiple cameras for a broadcast, and the ability to draw on the screen. Mod support is also there, and it's kind of a sign of the times that this is actually a huge selling point. In fact, the last time you got that weird shiver down your spine where you shake and everyone looks at you was probably the last time a developer decided against mod support. So when we see it integrated into the main menu, we say, thumbs up guys, love your work. And that brings us to endgame. We're excited to see how the strengths and weaknesses play out here. Perfect aim won't save you if your tactics are balls in Natural Selection 2, just like having the perfect strategy doesn't mean anything if your soldiers on the ground can't hit the broadside of a battle cruiser. Among the abilities we listed before, there's a litany of ways those can be combined, which will undoubtedly result in a tit-for-tat metagame worthy of an RTS. It's impossible for us to tell how that'll turn out, but that uncertainty doesn't matter because of the community's ownership of the game. Unlike the other indie shooters this year, Natural Selection 2 is not free to play. But its focus on esports is unprecedented, and its affinity towards modding means you're not getting one game, you're getting as many modes, features, and games as the community sees fit to make.